Ben's already on his phone.
Yeah, because I'm looking at what I'm going to say.
Welcome back to the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast. I'm Jordan.
And I am Ben.
And this is The Hunt 3.
Part 3. We just went on our third hunting trip for the year so far, which is super cool because we both decided in January that we were going to buy bows and go hunt. And no experience shooting a bow before.
Limited hunting experience.
Yeah, but it was more about just like getting out there and doing it. And I'm pretty stoked that we've already done 3 this year.
Dude, I mean, yeah, I was... So in December, I bought myself for a Christmas present, I bought myself a new hunting rifle because my whole plan this year was like, I need to go on one hunt, even if it's by myself. January, Ben goes, hey, why did you buy yourself a rifle? We should definitely buy bows because I know someone that wants to take us bow hunting. And I was like, oh, cool. If we get even one trip in, this is going to be like, I'm going to fulfill my goal. And we've gone on 3 completely different styles of hunts, which has been pretty freaking cool.
It has been cool. It's been a trip. Just there's so much that goes into it. Like if you're a listener that has no care about hunting or doesn't really get it or like it or condone it or care about it, there's so many different things that go into it that I guess obviously as we continue doing this, we're going to keep learning. And I think what's cool about it and the reason why we're wanting to talk about it, but again, it's a shared experience, but 2, you're learning something new, and I'm in my mid to late 30s, so it's, we're like in we're like, I'm getting older, but it's just like, I know it sounds cheesy, but it's never too late to try to get in something. And I know 30s is not old, but it's also not the youngest anymore to pick up like a new hobby when I have 3 kids and businesses in life,
Well, I mean, yeah, dude, most people don't pick up new hobbies in their 30s, like very rarely.
Yeah,
it's becoming more of a thing, at least with like it seems like jiu-jitsu is becoming more because it's become popular because of Joe Rogan and Andy Stumpf and all those kind of guys. So I feel like a lot of people now in their 30s are going towards like jiu-jitsu, which is epic. I need to get back there because I'm a slacker. But yeah, not many people pick up a whole new skill, especially something like hunting, because it has so many intricacies to it.
Yeah,
that it's hard to find a mentor to learn how to do it, and then
a place to do it,
at least here in California, and then there's just a lot of rules and regulations around the whole thing. So
yeah, I think that what's cool though is since this is our 3rd one, before we kind of jump into the actual hunting experience, I think we said it on one of the episodes, but how much we've learned from January to now, from hunt 1 till now, hunt 2 till now. I think every hunt we have both like collectively been like, oh shoot, like I meant to add this to my kit, or oh, in my day pack I should have brought X, Y, and Z. I did it again on this last trip where I was like, oh, like our second hunt, I realized, dude, if one of us gets hurt out here, we don't have anything. So I ended up, creating like my own mini med kit. So I had like a tourniquet, I had quick clot, I had pressure gauze, and I had all that stuff with me on this hunt. Made sure I had like a really sharp knife if we needed to, cut something. But I would have been able to do a splint in the field, anything. If something were to happen, I had that stuff. Mm-hmm. But I forgot things like gloves. Mm-hmm. And, something that's so basic that would be normally a part of any med kit. Like I didn't have gloves. And so when I got home, I was like, oh shoot, I need gloves. But I think the biggest highlight for me on this one was the camel pack that I had, and not just like dehydrating yourself the whole freaking day when you're up on the mountain or going, because where we were going, you have to go up and down, all around. Yeah. And, I'm not walking all the way down the freaking mountain to get water. Yeah. And yeah, you could have like a water bottle, but it's just not as convenient. Or the pack I was carrying, I opted for an actual like day use versus the pack you and George were using, were more like a bigger, to be able to pack meat out and stuff like that. I opted for like a smaller one, so I had all the necessities I needed. And again, stupid little things, but like snacks, like a protein bar, a chomp stick, electrolytes.
Yeah.
I was so much more prepared this time, which I think made the entire experience as a whole, I think, better. And for me personally, because I was more prepared.
Yeah.
Coffee and like the thermoses and the right cups and the coffee pot that I bought.
Yeah.
Just all these little things that I know it sounds so stupid, but as you progress in something and you learn more about something and you build something that's new to you, you obviously become more and more adept and and you use it to your advantage. And so going into this third hunt, I was like, yes, like I got all this stuff. I still did a dumb thing. I still opted to change my sight out prior to us going hunting, which it seems like every single time we've gone hunting, I've done something major right before, which is so dumb. Like I could have waited until we got home to change it. But again, rookie mistake. And now I don't need to change anything. Like our bows are pretty much set. We know what we like, how we like it, and all that fun stuff. But this hunt was a little different because, again, hunting is fun. It's recreational. It's supposed to be more of like a relaxing thing. / we obviously wanted to provide, some meat for our friends and family that we actually got to help like get. But there was so many things that had to make this trip work. Jordan and his wife Caitlin are about to have their third baby, and they have two toddlers as well. And so he had to figure out how to, make that trip work. And when your wife is 9 months pregnant, you don't necessarily want to make them but ask them to, hey, are you cool if I'm gone for a few days? Like you got the kids, you got everything. And so Jordan had to like navigate that. His dad flew down, they drove up, dropped him off. Then we went hunting. For me, it was a little easier because I don't have that layer, but just all the work stuff I have going on. And on top of like feeling guilty, leaving the family, just so many different things. And I'm saying all that to say is like sometimes, and we've said it before, but sometimes you do have to make those moments for yourself. If that's what it's going to take for you to be able to be the best like version of yourself, then you got to take that, right?
I think a big part that makes that I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm proud of us for is that I feel like both of us are very good about doing so in a way that limits the amount of pressure on our spouses as much as possible.
Yeah.
So like we, like the fact that I took my kids up to my parents' house and got them all settled and basically gave my wife a kid-free week, where I could have just been like, yo, I'm going hunting, take care of the kids, I'll be back,
Yeah.
The way that you navigate with your wife and you set things up at home and get things prepped and ready before you leave, so that they're like the best taken care of. Because I feel like there's guys too that like, they're like, hey, you need to make guy time and just tell your family to suck it. And it's like, yeah, like to a certain extent, you need to allow yourself time to recharge so that you're a better father, husband, all that kind of stuff. Clear your head, get some you time because you can't pour from an empty cup. But also like setting things up for them so that it makes their life easier, so that when you do go, it's not a massive burden, and that'll allow your wife to be like I talked to my wife again about trying to do another trip later on this year, just up near my parents. And I was like, I'll take you. You stay with the baby. If I go, I'll have you stay with the baby. I'll take my kids, the older two again, and take them to my parents' house. And she was like, that's easy. I can take care of one, no problem.
Yeah.
So it's just those little things that shows your spouse that you care.
When it's about building those practices that make there's like a fine line between, at least in my opinion, like you have to set your spouse up for success, right? They do the same thing for us too, but it's one of those things where if I'm going to want to go do something on my time that doesn't include my family, it's 100% needed and 100% appreciated. But at the same time, like someone's having to sacrifice a little bit more of their time to do that. So the least I could do is try to make sure that my family's set up for when we're gone, And if you don't do that, like I highly suggest that's a practice that you learn to do. Obviously, like I'm not perfect at it, but the intent and the heart behind trying to help set them up is to try to make their life a little easier and to show them, like you said, that you care, and that them being able to handle everything at home while we're out doing what we're wanting to do. It's just like another layer of showing, hey, like we're like definitely in it together.
Case in point is you and Devin, like you with jiu-jitsu. Like I've seen you'll work in a crazy schedule day. You're up and down South County, or North County, South County. You hit the whole thing. Then, you leave, you rush home, you make your family dinner, and then you head off to jiu-jitsu. And I know there's been times where Devin's like, hey, I really need you, or the kids are like, hey, I really need you to stay home. And you're like, yeah, of course. And you stay home. And then there's other times where you're like, I should probably stay home because I definitely think you guys need me. And there's Devin looks at you guys like, no, bro,
No, yeah, she's like,
get the heck out of
Yeah.
here
She
because I
just-
know it's good for your mental state. You know?
She literally just texted me when you said, "Oh, he's on his phone again."
Yeah.
It's one of those. She's having just one of those days where the kids are being rowdy. We're doing
Got that text on the way here.
Yeah, we're doing school now with our daughter. She's in kindergarten.
Yeah.
So there was homework and all that stuff. So Devin's like, "Hey, right when you get home, I'm tagging you in. I need to go on a walk. I need some like me time before you leave for jujitsu."
Yeah.
But she just texted me. She's like, "Don't worry, dinner's already done. So all you have to do is, just be with the kids. They want you." And so it's like one of those things where this stuff doesn't happen overnight. And I'm not saying it to be like, "Oh my gosh, look at us, look what we do." But it's more of like, it took Devin and I a long time to build these routines and these, I guess you can say, relational builder blocks, right? Like, she obviously does not need to worry about X, Y, and Z. I don't have to worry about X, Y, and Z. But together, we're trying to alleviate each other's, load, essentially. And it's just important,
It's funny. I actually did back when I did this podcast by myself originally. I did one called I think it was Love Account or Bank Account or something, a relationship bank account or something like that. But it's exactly what we're talking about. Is that when you make constant deposits into your spouse's bank account, their love account, their need for their time account.
Yeah.
That when you need to make withdrawals from that, like when you have a time, you're like, yo, I really need to do this. It's easier to make that withdrawal, or more often than not, once you get to that certain point, your spouse is going to be, hey, I recognize that you need this.
Yeah.
Get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually needed that. And again, to not, because it obviously you and I are talking about a lot of this stuff that we try to do because it's for us, for
Right.
other people. But I needed my wife a week ago. I was just having a moment a day. And it's like the first time I think in the 11, 12 years we've been together that I physically asked her to not do something so I could just spend time with her. Like, that's never happened. But I'm not saying that's not okay. I'm not saying like there's anything wrong with that. But
No.
for me, it's just like the first time it's ever happened.
Right.
Where I didn't think I needed that. Not in a way of, oh, I'm so tough, but more of like usually I internalize and I process and I handle things in a certain way. But for whatever reason that day, I was like, Dev, I need you to cancel whatever you have and just like, I just need a night with my wife.
Dude, what a cool marriage though. Like, and I realize part of the reason that I think that you have an awesome marriage and I feel like I have an awesome marriage. Like, and this isn't a braggadocious thing because the reason that we have awesome marriages like that, where like I legitimately feel like I'm married to my best friend, because I love hanging out with my wife, and like we joke all the time where you have those couples, these couples that are like, they trash on each other's, and you're like, bro, I just don't get that because like my wife's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Like I know their flaws, she knows my flaws, but like but a lot of that has to do with the amount of work that we've both put into our marriages
And yourselves.
and yourselves. Yeah. Dude, that doesn't happen by accident. But the fact that like, yeah, dude, there's times where I'm like, I just need to hang out with my wife.
Yeah.
And it's because like, dude, she is my better half, like 100%.
Yeah. And for me that day and all the time when I need her, it's because she's life-giving versus life-sucking, right? There's different relationships where they like breathe life into you. And then there's other relationships, and I guarantee you every single person has one, that are just like life-sucking, right? Like you still like the person or you love them, but you're just so drained after. You're depleted. It's life-sucking versus life-breathing. And that's what my wife is for me. She is literally what helps me recharge. My kids help me recharge. My faith in God helps me recharge. The hunting trips help me recharge. The jiu-jitsu helps me recharge. Like all these things, but she's, such a big role in how I'm able to like stabilize and recharge.
Yeah.
And it's so needed, but that's going to lead us back into our hunting trip of getting there. It was a process, this trip. Jordan had to drive separately. George and I drove separately. George, we all like to leave super early, so you beat traffic, beat heat, all that stuff. You get up there early so you get more time. But it was important for me to spend the morning with my family instead of leaving at 4 o'clock. And again, so it's just a different thing. I think George and I ended up I don't think we left until like nine something.
Yeah, you guys left later.
Yeah.
So you made good time.
Yeah, I was driving a little too fast. But we get up there, we're stoked. Life is behind you. All the worries of how you're going to do it, how you're going to make the time, they all kind of leave when you get up to that mountain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And right when we got there, I think we all said hi to the host that we stay with, and then we changed, got our gear on, and just went at it.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned our lesson the last 2 hunts, where Jordan and I will no longer audibly out loud say, "Oh, this is gonna be easy," because the 2 hunts previously, dude, you're driving in, and when it was turkey season, we saw freaking turkeys everywhere. Oh, dude, we're gonna get a turkey day 1. We're going home, sick. And then we get skunked, and then we go wild boar. We're driving on the ranch, boars everywhere, and we're like, "Oh, dude, this is easy. We're gonna go home tomorrow," and then nothing.
Yeah.
And nothing for the bow.
I shot one with a rifle.
Yeah,
but
he ended up doing rifle, but he's still got a pig kill, which we have been freaking eating. So that was dope.
It's been delicious.
And so we get here this time, and in my head, I said to myself, I don't care if I see freaking 15 deer. I'm not saying a dang thing. But the difference is this time is we saw no deer. And
I feel like we're learning something every time. So like one thing that I wouldn't have thought of when you're planning a hunting trip, is it a full moon or not?
yeah, I had no idea.
And we literally went during like the fullest full moon possible, and so all the deer are eating at night, and it was like, what the heck?
Yeah, but it's part of the hunt, man. It's part of the experience. So day 1 of hunting, or half day of hunting, we went out. We climbed the mountain. We did our thing. Sat, waited. I'm getting better at being more still. It's
Slowly but surely.
it's hard for me to sit in a blind and just like wait. And I get it's part of hunting. I fully get it.
Yeah.
But I think I'm more designed for, it doesn't exist, but extreme hunting.
No, it's what it's spot and stalk. It wasn't a true blind. We found like good spots to hide, like good natural blinds to get behind. Just try to see some movement. But yeah you're a true like actual spot and stalk, like.
Yeah, I'd rather walk 100 miles before you see a deer versus sit in a freaking makeshift blind or any form of a blind for 2 hours. I'd rather.
Yeah.
That's just me. But I'm getting better at it, and it is a practice, and it's part of it. And so we got nothing. Then we do the whole thing. No campfire because it's fire season, and got up.
Everything was super dry.
Yeah, got up the next day, got right at it, and again, we've been to this place a few times, so we kind of know where the animals go and where the deer go, and we weren't seeing anything. Lots of hours of waiting, hiking, more waiting. We would see some like bedded down, and then you try to get up closer, but everything's so crunchy and loud. So then they take off, and so we got nothing again. Day 1.5, and then the next day, all day long.
Yeah. Nothing.
Like all day. And, we even ended all splitting up. We each 3 took like essentially a zone, a sector of the mountain where we had the left flank, the right flank, and the center. And we had our cell phones, and when you're up that high, we actually had good service. But so we would, we were texting and communicating, trying to see if like anyone saw anything. And we saw a couple here and there, but they were, either females or they're too small, or again, they're bedded down somewhere. So by the time you get anywhere even remotely close, like I think I was telling you guys, I got within like 20 something yards of one, and but it was an impossible shot. There are bazillion branches in the way,
right?
But again, just nothing. Got skunked, and later that night we all again took a space and we just sat. Well, they sat. I stood for a lot of it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we kind of had figured out on these game trails where they were coming through, so we kind of all picked 3 different game trails / 3 different spots within where they converged, and
we had like almost like a 200-degree view.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't really shoot the opposite way. So
yeah,
George had the down sector, Jordan had the middle, and then I had the right, which was basically coming down the mountain. So we would have been able to kind of notify
Right.
each other.
But yeah, we're hanging out there, and you know, I'm just like, I don't know why, but like just the spot I was in felt good. Like I was like, we haven't seen anything. There's no reason why this should feel good. But I was just sitting there the whole time, and I was like, dude, this spot feels good.
Yeah.
And George was below me, and then he was like, "No, what, dude, I'm sick." I mean, we were like an hour in, and he was like, "No, dude, I'm kind of sick of this spot. I'm gonna go up top."
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay." So he went up top, and I was kind of in my spot, and Ben was like, "Hey, I think we should maybe, I don't know, should we call it soon or whatever?" And I was like,
Because it was getting close to end of day.
Yeah, it was getting close to the end of the day. Like it was getting, the sun was getting close to setting, and so I was just like, nah, I'm gonna sit here for a few more. I just felt like, I was like, I just feel like this is a good spot. So I was just sitting there and just kind of enjoying like my time and just being there. And I took that time to pray a little bit, and then all of a sudden I was like, man, that'd be so cool, as if like right over this knoll, a deer walked like straight at me, and then that's exactly what happened. And I was like, so I was sitting down, and this deer comes over. It's a buck, and I'm like, oh, that's a shootable buck. I mean, it's not big, but it's shootable.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I got all excited, and like all of a sudden I realized like when I shot the boar with a rifle, I don't know if I've been shooting forever, or I don't know what it was. It was like, okay, cool, grab the rifle, point, boom, done. No like I don't get any of that sensation. But for some reason with the bow, I looked at my hand, and it was like I was like shaking like a leaf, and I was like just out of excitement, like pure adrenaline. And I ranged it, and it was at 56 yards, and I was sitting. And it was kind of funny because over the last few weeks, I had been shooting longer ranges with my bow.
Yeah.
And Ben's like, dude, you're so dumb. Why would you ever shoot that far? You'll never take a shot that far. And I was like, I don't know, man. I feel like when we were pig hunting.
Okay, he was doing like 80 yards,
Yeah,
not
but I was
freaking
like-
50.
the guys when we went pig hunting was like, hey, you should try to take longer shots so you get used to that kind of stuff. So I was like, all right, whatever. But it was like 56 yards. And I was just like, dude, I got this. So I was sitting on a log. I took a 56-yard sitting shot, and I got my first buck with a bow. That was my
I'd say his
first bow kill.
first bow kill, which
First bow kill.
that's a big deal, and that's one of the reasons why we're wanting to talk about it. Is like, obviously we're going to talk about every hunt because it's just part of what we're doing, right? But the first bow kill is so freaking rad. And from my point of view, is I got to watch this whole thing because I was probably like, I was only maybe 20 yards away from Jordan, but I was on an elevated little hill, so I could see everything perfectly. I watched Jordan through my binos, and then I'd look at the deer, and then look through my binos, and look at the deer. Like, I mean, you're only 20 yards away, and so with binos, like, yeah, you're like in a magnifying glass, right? I could see his hand shaking. I could see him like trying to slow his breathing down, and I'm looking over at the buck, and then the same thing, and then look over, and yeah, he took that shot. It's a distinct sound too, and we both, after he hit it, we both knew he hit it, obviously. But you kind of, obviously, you're not trying to jump up and down and scream and shout. Like, you don't want this thing to run off and have to chase it and then lose it, and then that's a waste of a life for no reason. But I'm like watching everything through my binos still, and then I look back at him, and he's like, "Oh, you got the adrenaline pumping," and right after he shot it, I moved pretty rapidly around these downed bushes and trees, like a bunch of downed bushes and trees. So I moved around it pretty rapidly to get on the same field essentially as Jordan. And so now we're like maybe 12 to 15 yards away from each other, and we're watching, making sure his deer's down.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you want to make sure they're not suffering. And it was a trip because it was the first time we ever done it, and the guy that has the experience was at the top of the mountain.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And so Jordan and I were like, "Oh shoot, that deer was a tough SOB."
It was like, not only that, like when it was all done, we were like,
What do we do?
neither one of us like had, I mean, we hadn't been in this situation before by ourselves. So I was like, I don't know how to gut this thing. What do we do next? Like, well, so we're like trying to call him. He's not answering his phone because he left it at the cabin. We're like yelling up the mountain.
Before we get into that,
whistling up the mountain.
Yeah.
We're coming back to that. Don't worry about it.
No.
Don't worry about it. Okay. Don't worry about that. So anyway, I'll tell on myself in a minute.
All right.
So yeah. So anyway, we get George down there, and it was really cool because we got to process the deer, the whole process and everything like that. But on another time during that trip, there was a time where Ben and I, there was this deer, and Ben had a way better angle than I had, and I thought he didn't see me. I saw him because I was trying to direct him, and I thought he was watching me for a while, and then all of a sudden I'm trying to do these things, and he does. This is my side of the story.
Yeah.
This is my side of the story.
Yeah, do your
so
side.
I'm like, we're doing this thing. I thought he's not paying attention. He's clearly paying attention, but in my brain, what I'm seeing is dumb because I also like to kill deer. So I'm like, yeah, well, if he's not going to do it, then I'm clearly going to take a shot at this thing, which was a ridiculously long shot. Not as long as the one that I hit the deer, but a ridiculously long shot that was just absolutely dumb, and
To say the least.
and I ruined Ben's chances at getting his best chance at getting a deer.
Yeah, which is totally okay, and
You know what? You had another chance to take a shot later on, so I don't feel
did.
as bad.
But I
it
was
definitely
jaded already,
wasn't-
you know?
It definitely wasn't as good as the one that you would have had.
Yeah.
That you definitely would have hit a larger deer.
So Jordan says it's his version of the story. So there's always, everyone says there's three sides to a story. There's, for this particular moment, Jordan's, mine, and the truth. Well, the truth and mine are the same. So there's only two sides to this particular story. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Two-sided.
I'm just going to leave it as Jordan screwed me with greed in his heart and his eyes. And
Like all's fair in love and hunting. That's what I'm starting to.
And the coolest part was I was so happy for him still when he got his deer. And because that's what you do. That's what friends do, But something about that mountain in Jordan just makes him turn into a freaking caveman.
First trip, leave Ben stranded on the mountain.
He left me
Second
at the
trip,
top of the mountain by myself because
trying
he
to
was
steal
throwing
his
a
deer.
He was throwing a fit at me.
You know what? I revert back to like caveman days where it's
Apparently,
like,
dude.
I'm not very big and I'm not very strong, so I got to be the conniving one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. So the moment
I'm bad dude, bad dad on that mountain.
the moment he thinks I'm not seeing this, from my perspective, I already have an arrow knocked, and I'm right-handed, and so you hold your bow with your left, right? My arrow's knocked. I already had my trigger on. The last thing I was doing was finding the exact range, and I'm pulling up, my rangefinder, and right when I get a range, I just hear a and I was like, looked over with the face of like, are you freaking kidding me? Because I was even a little more elevated than him. He was kind of down. And so his shot was like, if he would have got it, that would have been insane because of how the angles were, right? You're on hills. So the buck was kind of on so his angle was not good. Mine was freaking flawless, but it doesn't mean I would have hit it. But the opportunity was taken from me. And let's go back into your bow kill.
What's worse is that like right after I shot it, I go, what the crap?
Yeah, he did out loud, audibly.
So I have no leg to stand on because I immediately yelled and gave it away that I was a bad dude, bad dad.
Yeah, but it's all good, man. It's part of it, Some people get shafted, and you like to do the shafting. So let's go back to your first bow kill. Let's talk about what did that mean to you? I know it sounds dumb, and there's a lot of people that, again, don't understand hunting of animals. But what did that mean to you?
Well, it's funny because you and I had joked about it a few weeks before. Actually, right before we talked about it on the podcast with my dad, is that I joked around, or I was saying, it's not joking because I actually think it's serious. I've never really naturally been good at anything. I have to work really, really hard at everything I do in order to succeed at it. And since January, granted, I don't have anywhere I can shoot at my house, but 2 to 3 times a week I've been going to a range and just putting in a crap load of work towards shooting.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you put in more work than I did, and it shows because we'll get into that.
I was also right off the bat. Ben was shooting really, really well, And right off the bat, I was shooting really, really crappy. And Ben still is shooting really well, and I'm just shooting less crappy. But the opportunity presented itself for me in a little better, well, until I stole his opportunity. Before the opportunity that followed through and became successful was just, it felt like just a culmination of like all the hard work.
Yeah.
And it's something that I had wanted to do. That was my first deer that I've ever shot. So it wasn't, it was a really cool moment of just a childhood dream finally coming true, in a way that I just never thought possible. And the fact that I did it from sitting and at 56 yards with, I had really crappy arrows at the time. Since then, my wife allowed me to spend more money because I proved I can kill something. I have nicer arrows now, but like my equipment had, I don't want to blame my equipment because there's people that shoot with worse stuff that do just fine.
Yeah.
But it's
But
not
you-
like
you
I had
had-
the sick, and I'm not
No,
saying
you had
this to knock you.
You had entry level stuff, and I do not.
It's not like I have a sick Hoyt or Matthews bow or
Yeah.
like I'm not like, my equipment isn't like top notch, but it clearly works. So, that was really the cool part. And then, what honestly meant more to me than any of that was when we got home.
Yeah.
We got home the following week. We did George, Ben and myself, we had all our families come together at Ben's house, and we did kind of a wild game feast. So we had boar's meat, we had deer meat.
I was gifted some elk.
He was gifted some elk, and then we just did some regular steak and chicken too. But to have everybody's family there,
Yeah.
and enjoying the food that like
We got.
we
or
yeah,
you
yeah,
got.
it was a collective. We got it was that was more special, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing as all of this in our short hunting journey so far. The fact that one Saturday family cookout was worth all the hours at the indoor range, the outdoor range, the pissed off at equipment, the not pissed off at equipment, the switching of things, the trying new things, the sitting in blinds, the falling down the mountain, the ankle rolls on the mountain.
Me screwing over Ben, me throwing a hissy fit off on the mountain, me throwing a hissy fit off the mountain, me throwing a hissy fit at the range.
All of it was just so
Yeah.
freaking cool. And to those people that'd be like, well, why didn't you just go to the store and buy the meat you provided? It was such a drastically different experience because we utilized every piece of the boar that Jordan got us in earlier this year. We utilized all the parts of the deer. And I know it sounds cheesy, but it tasted better than any meat I've ever bought from a store.
Oh,
And-
I was telling Caitlin the other day, I was like, dude, our diet really hasn't changed, and my exercise amount hasn't really changed either. The main thing that's changed over the last few months is how much wild game I'm eating, and I've leaned out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to get into all that kind of stuff, but I was just like, that's really interesting that really nothing in my diet has changed other than
Cleaner
the
meat.
type of meat I'm eating.
Yeah.
Not even the amount of meat, just the type of meat.
Well, and I know it's like those pigs. All they eat is wild barley. Like
Yeah.
that's what they eat day in and day out.
So
that ranch over the bazillion acres that they own, they're not spraying any type of chemicals or pesticides or crap there, right?
Yeah.
The deer, again, it's mountain range up there.
Yeah.
No one, the guy who owns the land that we're hunting on, he's not up there spraying pesticides or any of that crap. And you can genuinely taste it. But I think the thing that was just so rad is like watching our little kids eat
Yeah.
the meat that we freaking spent hours doing. Like that, the boar meat, dude, we hunted, I forget what we said, like 30 something hours, all for that one pig essentially.
Yeah.
And every single bite, I was like, dang, it was worth the misery of freaking being so cold in those mornings. My back was still like pretty messed up, and I had to freaking try to keep up with crazy country boy hunting guide who's just built different, right?
Yeah.
I had to try to keep up with him in the mountains. Like, it was all so worth it.
Yeah.
And for me, in my point of view of watching him get his first bow kill was like such a rad thing, right? Because out of the 3 hunters in the group, if one of us gets something, that's a success, right? Like,
Yeah.
and we understand that. I'm not just saying that. I was so stoked that he got it. If George would have got it, I would have been pumped. If I would have got it, I would have been pumped. Jordan got it. So that's what's so rad, you know? And I think it's such a cool concept because so my dad has talked about it my entire life, what it was like having to go out and hunt for their food. Because they did grocery trips, I think he said like once a month. Because to get to the nearest grocery store from them when he was a kid was, you know, it's a couple hour type thing. It's not like, oh, shoot, let me run to Sprouts real quick.
Yeah.
You know, if you forgot something or you didn't have meat, you go get it.
Yeah.
Whether it was whatever, rabbit, snake, deer, like you go and get it. And so for my dad, hearing how he grew up, like, you know, being in 7th, 8th grade and checking his like trap lines before school and then going to school and then coming back to hunt so they could have food, meat, that night because they would eat it that day.
Yeah.
My dad would bag a deer or my grandpa would bag a deer and they would bring it back, hang it up, and my grandma would start helping process while they finished doing whatever they were doing, like, you know, ranch chores. And so to like just see it all happen all at once, even though it wasn't like quote unquote my deer, was just such a cool, oh, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
And then watching you have to freaking carry that thing all the way back to where we were, I was like, oh shoot, like this is cool. And then George will probably make fun of me at some point, so I might as well just get it out of the way. Dude, there was hundreds and hundreds of ticks on this freaking thing. And that is a West Coast hunting thing.
Yeah.
Because it's heat, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not a normal mid to East Coast hunting thing unless you're hunting in the summer. And George he's a funny guy. He's just like, oh, you're fine. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that. And I'm like, bro, I'm not going to voluntarily put my hand in ticks. Why would I voluntarily do that? And because I had to pick up the deer to get them back. And all I did was freaking brush the ticks off from where I was grabbing, then grabbed it. And George was like, stop being such a pansy. And I was like, oh my gosh.
We had some technical difficulties, but we're
going to fix it.
we
were
go post production.
We were going to go into, to wrap up our trip is, I ended up having my next opportunity the next morning. We got out at the freaking crack of dawn. Like, we're all hyped. Jordan filled his tag. George actually ended up, like, freaking busting his ankle up trying to come help us process the deer. He fell down.
Oh, my gosh, I totally forgot about that.
This little area where everyone fell except for me. And I'm going to knock on wood so I don't fall next time.
No.
I'm the only one that hasn't fallen on that mountain.
No, what's really funny is that right after he busted his ankle, we were going back out for some reason, and you're like, oh, hey, be careful, that's where George just fell. And I thought you meant a different spot, and so I literally walked right where George fell, and what happens? I fell. It was, dude,
with hot coffee.
Oh, yeah, the hot coffee went all over me, and I was pissed, so I chucked my cup, and I was like, screw this, and I just walked off.
I am literally the only one that hasn't fallen on that mountain yet, and I know it's coming.
I have a video. You sent me a video of me walking, and I fall in that video. I'm like, this freaking mountain hates me.
Dude, I don't know how I haven't fallen yet. It's gonna happen, but it'll probably happen the next one because it'll start to get like wet in condensation.
The blessings of being a short person is you don't have far to fall.
I know that's why when I fall, it's gonna hurt. I know I'll probably like roll my ankle because that's how I am. But that next morning we get up, crack of dawn again, coffee. We go to the same exact spot Jordan got his because that seemed to be the only activity that we saw the whole trip. And we're sitting there. We thought we were gonna be good. We're sitting there for a couple hours. Nothing. Like literally nothing. And so I looked at him because we wanted to try to get out that day so we can be home. And we were driving on a weekday, so LA traffic was going to be gnarly if we didn't get through it enough time. Mm-hmm. And we ended up saying, I told him, I was like, dude, let's just call it. He's like, you sure? I was like, yeah, I'm good. You know, great time. You got a deer, so we're going to have some meat. Like, cool, let's go. And as we're going back up to where we were camping, we see a bunch of deer start coming in. A bunch of them start coming in. There's only, I think, 2, maybe 3 bucks in that whole group, though. Bunch of does, fawns, but we saw those. So it actually kind of got tricky because to try to keep track of what you're allowed to shoot at and not gets so hard when depending like the scenery you have, the like where you're at, all of that. And so they were all helping me try to make sure I was going for the right one. And so, I mean, it's obviously clear, too, is the biggest one. And we were a little elevated at this time, and we were just trying to be patient because they kept coming towards us. And they kind of stopped around like the 50, what did I say it was, like 50, 50, 55, 50 something, 50
Ish.
in the 50ish,
In the 50s.
mid 50s range, and they weren't coming anymore. And what I learned this time from the previous 2 hunts was I wasn't going to listen to anybody else chirping in my ear anymore at the last second, and not in a bad way, because everyone's just trying to help you. But dude, I don't have the best hearing as it is, and so when I'm trying to listen to people whisper to me, and when you don't know hand signals, which we did another mix up on that, you and George, like, it's hard. So in my head, I was like, it's my shot. I'm going to just take it instead of waiting.
Yeah.
And I think everyone was chill with me taking that shot. But I think George wanted me to wait till it came closer, but I was like, dude, they don't seem to come closer. And from where I was standing,
No, you were good. Right before that, I literally looked at George. I was like, "Why isn't he shooting?" And he goes, "I don't know. He should shoot." And then you shot shortly afterwards.
perfect.
So it was like, yeah, it was like right on that time.
I had to I was standing, I was using a tall bush as like my covering, and so I was able to actually draw standing like we're used to, and just drew back while I was behind the bush and slightly moved myself out to take the shot. And I don't know what the heck, I guess just beginner rookie mistakes again, chalk it up to another learning lesson. In my head I said, since I'm so much like more elevated, I did the opposite. I was like, I'm going to aim a little lower than I normally would in case he like moves or whatever. Because where he was, if he would have taken a few steps down, I would have shot. He would be lower to me. So I was like, oh, if I'll aim a little lower in case he moves towards it, it would be good. And shoot it. It was the first shot I did with my bow the whole trip. We all were like, what the heck happened to your bow when I shot? It just made this crazy weird noise, and I don't know why. I actually haven't shot my bow since.
Yeah.
But it sounded like I don't know, it just sounded really weird. And then we all hear the crack. So I ended up hitting the deer what we think was in his shoulder bone. But it was such a clean shot that it went through his shoulder bone and out his armpit.
Yeah.
And we all like thought it was good.
Yeah.
It kind of went behind this brush covering, so none of us could see it. We didn't hear moving around. The other deers that were with him obviously took off, and so we all waited probably like a solid 5 to 6 minutes before we obviously went to go find it because there was no movement. Went to go find it, ended up seeing him like wobble off basically across the mountain, and I found the blood trail. I don't know, everyone just disappeared and kind of I was by myself and
I had texted you. I had to.
He had to go take care of.
I had to go use the facilities instantly.
And I was like, dang, everyone else just is gone. So I'm like, which is cool. I took the shot, but I followed this deer what seemed like forever, but it was only probably like 15 minutes or something, but tracked him all the way across the mountain. I found him and his little buddy. They were kind of in this field, and I could tell he was hurt, and which really bummed me out. And so I was trying to obviously get close enough / a good enough shot to obviously hopefully, stop making him miserable. And I got within like 20 something yards, but too many trees and stuff. And so I'm trying to like stalk them through. His buddy took off, just left him. He was like, see you, dude. And I kept following him, and it just made me feel so bad because he, it's not what you want to do as especially as like a hunter, right? I clearly hurt him, but it wasn't enough for me to get one close enough to do a finishing shot.
Yeah, but he also went. I mean, like he ran off onto another property that we're not allowed to hunt on. Yeah. So it was like he, honestly, I mean, from what I didn't get to see it from what you described, a survivable.
Hopefully.
Yeah, survivable shot. So.
Hopefully he survived it, but that was my shot. So I still have 0 and Jordan has 2. Not that we're keeping score. Actually, I mean you have 1, but the one is still
cheated.
You still you still got it. Still have a rifle that I still ate that meat. I still eat that meat. So technically
we have the skull up here in our office now.
Yeah. But all in all, just another great experience of learning and trying to hone in a skill that is new to us. Patience is a big part of it. The ability to not be afraid to just like get out there and try something. And that's, again, all we're trying to accomplish. Not all. A lot of what we're trying to accomplish with this podcast is getting men to start doing things, whatever it is, man. It could be read more books. It could be start exercising, try something different, try something new, go for a promotion. If you're thinking about, quitting your job and becoming an entrepreneur and you've just been on the fence, like go for it, man.
Yeah.
Like obviously have a plan, try to execute that plan, but be willing to adapt and to try to just minimize your exposures as much as you can, but not afraid to make those mistakes as you learn and grow. And the hunting is something like that is for Jordan and I both like beneficial mentally. It's a life breather. It's something hard, something new. It's a challenge that we're seeing through. And I feel like it's something that we're probably going to do for a long time, as long as we're able.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep talking about it because these lessons apply to life, man. Like,
Yeah.
just because I didn't get my first shot because someone was selfish and took it away from me, like I could have easily just been like, oh, I'm done for the trip, But and then that next morning, getting up and getting skunked, you're kind of like defeated a little. You're like, dang, that stinks, but I'm still stoked because my buddy got one. But dang, that stinks. And then going to pack up, and to all of a sudden, the most deer we've seen the entire trip starting to come to where we're stationed at. And so you have to like put all these things aside and try to get that shot.
And then again, our buddy, as soon as we left, like the day or 2 days later, sent us another picture of a massive buck.
Like massive.
Yeah.
Massive.
Ridiculous.
But all in all, man, great experiences. I love that we get to do that together. I love that we're sharing them. Again, we're not trying to talk to people because we think we're better than you, but we're trying to just share experiences, share our guest experiences. And we genuinely want to try to like create some form of a change to, it sounds cheesy, but start more of this movement centered around being a good dude and a good dad. And if you're not a dad or you have no plans to be a dad, you could still be a good dude. It's not specifically for dads. We're just dads and we're speaking to dads, but all of these things apply to being a freaking good human.
That's true.
And so
It all starts with you, and it all starts in your home, But anyway, please like, share, subscribe. Please send this to someone you think we would find helpful, or one of our older podcasts. It'd be great. We're going to be throwing up the new shirts. Relax.
We've been saying this for a while, but it's all that's on me.
We took the pictures of the shirts today to put on the website. So look out for those. We'll do a drop for that. But thank you again, my man.
Yes, sir.
All right. Remember, be a good dude, be a good dad.